What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good day as I am. This is Prediction by Ring King Chronicles, and today we'll be talking about the Errol Spence versus Tszyu fight. As you all know, Charlo, the big Charlo, was supposed to fight on this card. However, he had visa issues, so that fight was canceled. Then we was down to two fights for the main card, which was Cool Boy Steph and Liam Wilson. Now, as I predicted, in my tell of the tape and the things that I went when I went over this fight, this particular fight, it actually came true before the fight, which is the reason why the fight got canceled, meaning Cool Boy Steph and his weight issues. All right, now I'm gonna just break this down since I already went over it anyway, just to give you a quick, synopsis of what, I felt like was gonna happen in this fight. All right, for Cool Boy Steph, he's 32 years of age, 5'6.5", has a 70.5 reach. For Liam Wilson, he is 30 years of age, 5'9.5", and he has a 70-inch reach. So his advantages would be his 2 years of youth, his 3 inches of height, and in Cool Boy Steph's advantage would be he has a half-inch reach advantage, if that matters. They're both orthodox, with Liam Wilson having a better KO percentage. KO percentage, keep messing it up. But anyway, now let's talk about some of their cons. Cool Boy Steph's weight issues. That was like one of the things that I wrote down. That was the first thing I wrote down as a con for him, because in like 3 or 4 of his fights, they were canceled because he couldn't keep or make weight. And I think that has something to do with his self-esteem and confidence at this point. Because why would you put yourself through this just to not make sure that you secure the bag? Like, that's kind of, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that, I don't know if he's, not making the weight, or, doing what he needs to make the weight because his confidence is shot. And another con for him, in his last 4 fights, he's 2 wins and 2 losses. Although the 2 losses is by notable competitors, which is Inouye and Foster. Now, for Liam Wilson, his cons would be all 3 of his losses were by TKO. To Valdez, to Navarrete, and some other guy. I really don't know who he was, but I just know that it was TKO. So now the betting odds had Cool Boy Steph winning his fights by a mile. The pros for Cool Boy Steph would be his opposition. He's been in a ring with better opposition as he's floated through different weight classes. He's beat Brandon Figueroa twice and Angelio Leo. So to me, he has a better boxing pedigree. He should have the experience factor also. For Wilson, his pros would be they were supposed to fight at his natural weight class. Although Cool Boy Steph was 6.5 pounds over a class that he was moving up to, that's where I don't understand that. And he has the slight power advantage because of his KO percentage. So for me, my pick would have been Cool Boy Steph had this fight happened because of wisdom. Like I said, experience, the opposition he'd been up against. I thought that, because dude didn't have a crazy KO percentage, and especially against anybody who's a notable name, I would have gave the victory to Cool Boy Steph in by decision. Now, let's talk about the main event, Errol Spence versus Tszyu. First, we're going to go over the tell of the tape for Errol Spence. 5'9.5", age 36, has a 72-inch reach, and he's southpaw. For Tszyu, he's 5'8.5", 31.5 years old. He has a 70.5-inch reach, and he is orthodox. Now, Errol Spence has a 1-inch height advantage, but Tszyu has a, youth factor in his to his advantage. Now, where Errol Spence has a 72-inch reach, Tim Tszyu only has a 70.5-inch reach. So that's a inch and a half reach advantage for Errol Spence. And he's also southpaw, which is more of a rare style, a harder style to figure out, and it's also a style that Tim Tszyu has had problems with in the past with, Sebastian Fundora, who, that guy's crazy with it. So, and he fought him twice, and he took 2 L's to Sebastian Fundora. So, the cons for Errol Spence will be this 3-year layoff. That's a long layoff when you're in your prime. And I only know of greats that were able to come back from that long of a layoff and do just as good as they did before they were, before they stopped fighting at a, constant pace. So that's really a big thing for me. We don't know what Errol Spence we getting because we haven't seen Errol Spence. And the last time we did see him, he was beat down horrendously by Terrence Crawford. Bad decisions all the way around for Errol Spence, like drinking and driving, gaining weight, extensively in between fights, the eye injury, the Terrence Crawford fight, the change in corner. We don't know how Errol Spence is going to look, considering Ronnie Shields and him, this is their first time pairing up. And we all know that it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks. So, we don't know what's going to happen here. To me, when I look at this is these are the things that I feel like could be dangerous for Errol Spence. Because with a new trainer, let's say things start getting tough in there. Let's say that he start remembering like things that were tough for him in his fights before, whether that be his fight outside the ring or his fight inside the ring with Terrence Crawford. Like a lot of times when you start remembering things and things start going through your head as stuff start getting tough in the ring, you might result to things that you previously used to do. So I don't know how much this trainer is going to help him for this fight in going forward, but we will see tonight. Now for the cons for Tim Tszyu, in his last 6 fights, he has 3 wins and 3 losses. So basically he's 50%, which is never really good. And 2 of those 3 losses were by stoppage. And even the wins he had, it's like he was busted open. It was kind of tough for him. So really the only win that he had probably in the last 7 fights, or maybe 6, was with the dude Joy Spencer, who he knocked out. You know what I'm saying? But we can't take much from that because Joy Spencer really didn't have a deep boxing pedigree. So, but let's get to the rest of his cons. He can't get out the way of a left hook, which Spence is a southpaw. So there's another thing. He has slow feet. He quit on the stool. Once you quit, it's always easier to give up and quit after you quit that first time. Now, before that, you got your pride and everything else. But once you've been, beaten to the point where you see no other way out but to quit, sometimes that plays over anytime things get tough. So that's another thing I'm worried about. And he also has a change in corner. So we don't know, once again, what we getting with Tim Tszyu, especially with him not having an extensive boxing background. I don't know what he did in the Olympics. I don't know what he did as far as national golden gloves. We just seen him come on the scene and become professional. And what he did as far as a professional, I don't really see any tapes of him before then to know, what he'd been through, who he learned from, and everything else. I know what his dad did. I know what boxing pedigree he has, but not necessarily his son. Now, the betting odds have Spence as a slight favorite, which I agree with, because he has better opposition and he has a deep boxing background that we can also go back and see footage of. As far as Tim Tszyu, where his pros would be is he stayed active. So he was able to at least, have his body within, because to get beat on, your skin got to be, trained for that. Like when you go into just getting punched in the face, it's much easier to get busted open, what I'm saying? So, with Tim Tszyu, he's been through that. through and through. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't really taken no break. He hasn't really taken no time out. Even when he got knocked out, he kind of like got back in there, changed up a trainer and seen what he can do. So that's a good thing. And then youth is still on his side. Although, because he's kind of like a straightforward fighter, he don't really have any good head movement and things of that nature. He's been punched on a lot. You know what I'm saying? A lot of wear and tear. So, like, if you ask me, at the end of the day, looking at the tail of the tape, the pros and the cons of both fighters, it's really a toss up because we don't know what we're getting. But if you ask me, if I had to put my last dollar on one or the other, it would be Errol Spence. Reason being, better acquisition, like I said. I believe his trainer is more qualified than the trainer of Tszyu. Height advantage. I've seen Errol Spence actually box and not just go straight for it and go for that knockout. And although this was before the accident in the Terrence Crawford fight, I actually seen him box and throw a beautiful jab and then work everything off of that. So I'm definitely going with Errol Spence. Although if Errol Spence cannot handle the pressure that Tszyu's bringing forward, and his body can't handle and absorb those punches, as well as being 160. At first, this fight was supposed to be at 154. So now, the last time you was in the ring, it was at 147. Whereas Tszyu has fought, I believe, at 154 and 160 before. You have never fought at 160. So to take 160 power punches is vastly different than taking punches at 147. So can he deal with that? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. And can he make Tszyu feel him as far as with punching and, making him back up, where he don't just come in and think that he can run the day. So these are all things we got to look forward to and see what's going to happen. But like I said, I'm picking Errol Spence, and I'm picking Errol Spence by late stoppage. I don't know what round, but I'm figuring between probably the 8th and 12th round. Even in the 12th, he can stop you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking between the 8th and the 12th, he's going to stop Tszyu, because I don't see Tszyu getting out of the way of punches. And if the going gets thick, I know that Errol's going to keep getting up. He's going to bite down. He's going to keep fighting till there's no more fight left. I can't necessarily say the same thing about Tszyu. Once again, this is predictions by Green King Chronicles. We'll talk about this maybe on the next one. We out.